Everybody has their dessert, right? Okay, so I'm Roseanne Chels. I'm the current Vice President of Kenosha Women's Network, and I'm here at this moment to introduce our speaker for today. And she happens to be the original, or one of the original, Kenosha Women's Network members. Fran Kavenik joined us in 1980. Actually, the same year I found out today that she started teaching at Parkside. Currently, because we're 40 years forward, right? She's a retired English, Humanities, and Women's Studies teacher, and she's going to talk to us today about the importance of voting. Fran Kavenik.
Thank you, Roseanne. Okay, we're going to, never give a microphone to an academic because, you suffer the consequences. I'm going to start with a little history lesson because, hey, there will be no quiz. It took over 70 years for U.S. women to get the vote. 70 years. Right? It took over 250 years for African American men to get the vote. And then between 1870 and 1890, Jim Crow laws effectively overturned the 13th Amendment in the South. It took the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in response to the killing of civil rights workers in Mississippi, Alabama, and elsewhere, to restore those voting rights guaranteed in the Constitution. Until the backsliding of 2008 and after, that's what happens when you elect a black president, the U.S. Supreme Court decision of 2013, which gutted the Voting Rights Act by eliminating pre-clearance requirements for previous Jim Crow states, ushered in the era of new voting restrictions. States throughout the South and many in the North, including Wisconsin, enacted well-designed and targeted voter ID laws and requirements and passed state laws enabling them to purge voter rolls of tens of thousands of registered voters. Does anyone know the number for this year for Wisconsin? Something like 30,000.
They purged already?
Purged, yeah, oh yeah, sure, of course. This is the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
So what can we learn from this brief history lesson? Anybody? This
Go
is
vote.
interactive.
Yeah. Get out there and vote.
Make sure you're
Okay,
registered.
but what's the pattern? Let's analyze
Oh,
the situation. What's going on and why? Anybody?
Well, voter suppression, obviously.
Okay, but why are voters being suppressed?
Because the party that's in office does not want to be changed.
Okay, so whoever's in charge, and let's be broad-based here, whoever's in charge considers voting, that is a true democracy across the board, to be a threat to their power, right? They're on top, they don't want to give it up. And so in order to make sure that that happens, they want to rig the vote. And one way to do that is simply to, make sure that the people who might vote the other way are not going to. Okay, so voting seen as a threat to the dominant culture. The dominant culture can and will suppress the vote, especially in certain places and among certain people. So the moral of the story is vote. Vote. And it's absolutely crucial that not just you, but your friends and neighbors and relatives and so on, people who don't vote the same way you do, get out there and exercise their right to vote. Because again, in a climate where voter suppression and purging voter rolls is real, if you don't vote in 2 or 3 successive elections, you're gone, okay? And the way to check that, in case you haven't been told already, is at myvote.wi.gov. And you can go in there, you give them who you are and your information. You don't have to give them a whole bunch of stuff. I think the last 4 digits of your social security. And they will tell you exactly where you are on the spectrum. In other words, if you have already sent in an absentee ballot, if you have, already voted, if your absentee ballot has been received, How many of you are voting absentee this year? Yay, good for you. Okay, that opened up on the 14th, or is voting, yeah, the 14th of October, I believe. The 20th, my preference is always to go in and vote in person at the municipal building, where you can do it right there and sign off, and they check it right there while you're looking at them, and they seal the envelope so you don't have to lick it. Can't be easier. And they put it in a safe at night, so you don't have to worry about where it's gone, right, in the meantime. But that's a very safe way to vote, and we still have a pretty generous absentee voting regulations in Wisconsin. Anytime after the 20th of October, you can go to your local municipal clerk's office. Don't have to have an appointment, but you have obviously go during business hours. And that stops the weekend before. So the 30th of October is the last date you can do that. You can turn in an absentee ballot right up until the day of the voting, that is November 3rd. But you can't go in and do in person, what they call in-person absentee voting in Wisconsin after the 30th of October. So I happen to have voting by absentee ballot, so if anybody doesn't know where their clerk lives, anybody want to know? I've got it all
Maybe
here.
not where she lives.
Huh?
Maybe not where she lives.
No? No, I think this is like Town of Brighton, for example, and it tells you, you know, and you're right, they're almost all female. Why is that? Okay, any questions? Any issues? All right, go vote and make everybody else vote too. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. She's always interesting and entertaining.